Oftentimes, so many people tell you speak to your target audience, engage them. That's how you build a community. That's how you gain loyal followers. But has anybody actually told you how to find your target audience? So, this week, let's kind of dive into how to find and determine who your target audience is. Hi, my name is Ona Oghogho, and I'm the founder, creative director here at Adode Media. And I honestly feel like we all run into this, whether you're a content creator or you are a business owner or a large enterprise. It's the never ending hustle of trying to figure out who is your target audience and who specifically are you talking to. Because you know the saying, if you're talking to everybody, you're talking to nobody. So let's kind of dive into what is a target audience, or as I like to call it, who is your listener avatar? So, we all know the age old, you need to know their age, their race, their demographics, and all of those details, which is very real and true. But it goes a little further, and this has a lot to do with, in podcasting, why I always say you don't want to utilize things like Anchor as your hosting platform. The reason for that is when you use tools such as Buzzsprout that show a lot more details as to where your audience is located. What is it that they're listening to, like all of these things, it kind of gives you a little bit more insight. So with this in mind, as much as it is about knowing where are they located, and you're probably thinking to yourself, Anna, why do I need to really know where these people are located? Remember, this whole video is about figuring out where your target audience is. So if you're looking at your stats, and let's start off with your host platform. If you use a tool like Buzzsprout, it's going to tell you what city most of your listeners are coming from, and it's going to tell you, okay, what is the percentage, those type of things. Well, once you have a city in mind, I think it actually makes the world of a difference. Like for me, I think that's the biggest barrier is figuring out where are you physically at. Once you know where the physicality, it then allows for you to get a little bit more granular in marketing and getting in front of them. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, wait, how are we at the marketing stage when I'm supposed to be figuring out who they are? Well, the thing about determining who your target audience is and figuring out where they're at is it's going to take trial and error. What I mean by this is I typically like to say you want to do it on a quarterly basis. So in this quarter, if you see that your audience is mainly coming from Atlanta, Georgia, for example, okay, you know my audience is in Atlanta, Georgia. Well, let's take it one step further. If I said that this is the age, the race, the demographic, and what they like to do with their free time. And that's a piece that I think a lot of people miss out on is when you are creating your listener avatar, you do need to go as far as indicating what do they do with their free time. And the reason for this is it helps you understand where to find them. So for example, I have a podcast called The Podcast Trapper, and it's on hiatus right now, so don't ask me about it. But with that podcast, it is geared towards independent creators, other producers, other podcasters. Well, those are three things that are very specific. I know that, hey, if I'm trying to reach people in Atlanta, Georgia, where do producers spend their time? Where do other creators spend their time? Well, it takes me to places like co-working spaces, other podcast companies, those type of details, and podcast publications. For example, in this day and age, we talk oftentimes about create a community. And the whole premise of why people want you to create a community is that you have a dedicated audience who want to engage with you. But nobody ever talks about what we do now that social media has changed. Back in 2019, it was very easy to put content out there, and so easily would people easily find you, engage with you, and it was just a different landscape. Such easier times. Don't we all miss that? But in this day and age, you actually have to be much more strategic. This means partnering with other people within your niche or who have access to that target audience. Remember I said it's important to know where your audience spends their time? That means what influencers are out there, what blogs are out there, finding an adjacent platform. For example, we've worked with a client for many years where we actually place ads in other newsletters for their actual podcast. Now, what does this look like? This means that in the bottom of our client's show notes, we indicate that we partner with this particular blog. In every one of this blog posts, they place a link to our client's actual podcast. Now, you're probably wondering to yourself, what does this have to do with determining my target audience and finding them? Well, when we found that, hey, This is her target audience, and this is this blog that gets thousands of readership on a weekly basis. We have the same target audience, and it's already showing to me that my audience is there because a lot of people have media kits that will showcase who their listeners are, who their audience is, their click-through rate, all of these details right there on their website. So I always recommend find out who the bloggers or the people adjacent to your platform. Now, of course, you want to collaborate with other podcasters, but it can always feel to me like it can be difficult to figure out, okay, wait, there's only so many podcasts people can listen to. But if somebody likes listening to a podcast or reading a blog about specific type of content, it is very easy for them to transition over to wanting to listen to your podcast about this content. So with this in mind, when you find, okay, this is the 5 bloggers in my industry that are in Atlanta, Georgia, that have a good audience, a good reach, it's then reaching out to them to get their media kit or getting it directly from their website. Now you're able to see, okay, we have the same target audience and it goes even more granular, but we have the same target audience. Let's see how we can partner together to both grow each other's reaches. On the flip side of this, so we've talked about bloggers and people who are adjacent to your field. It's also who is it that, you know what? I know that we have the same target audience, but they're on a larger scale than me. And then it's looking at who is liking their content, who is commenting on their post, who's actually interacting. And I know you're probably thinking to yourself, this is a lot of work. You are correct. And this is why there's whole businesses that this is what we do, because it's important to do that research and that analysis. So if these are the top markets, and vidIQ actually does a good job of this. It's an AI tool that will take a YouTube channel and show you like what are their top trending videos and how do you compare and what are the things that you can talk about to reach that audience. But I say go one step further. Look at who's commenting, look at who's engaging, and then have an idea of, okay, let's see who that person is and engage with them as well. Now you've found your target because you and another brand probably have similar targets. So this is from a content creator perspective. But as a business owner, one of the hardest things is figuring out like who's actually watching this video. Who are you? What do you do? What goes into this? And this is where pixels come into play. So have you ever gone to a website and it says, hey, we track using cookies? And sometimes we don't think to cancel that. Other times we do. But how many people really know what that means? So let's dive into that. Oftentimes your target audience is coming to your website. If you are SEO optimized, if your traffic is good, if you don't have a website, let's just start off there. And the reason I say this is because when your audience finds you, the very first thing they do is look at your social media for social proof. And you can feel free to watch some of our past videos where I talk about how social media is really for proof of concept. So now they found you on social and they want to see, okay, let's see some more elements of your work, and they head over to your website. Well, having some form of a pixel tracker on your website allows to give you kind of scary information, but it'll tell you all the way down to their age, their gender, their race, sometimes even their spending habits, and even their email addresses. Well, this now allows for you to have access. Now, let's be clear. Just because it gave you their email addresses does not mean that you get to just start emailing them, because that is illegal if they did not sign up for your email list. So just want to make sure I say that portion, but it gives you a better understanding of where people are coming from, how they're interacting with your content and your brand. Last but definitely not least, when you are trying to find your target audience, it's going to be not just the trial and error portion of it. It's going to really require that you are doing a lot of research. So that means looking at your clicks, looking at your listen through rates. If you're on YouTube, YouTube does tell you what the drop off rate was, and it also tells you what are your adjacent content. So if you go and see, oh, my adjacent content is a big platform, you're able to kind of get an understanding of, okay, what's working, what's not. Your most popular piece of content is your gold mine for information. So if you see that this piece of content did really well, that means my target audience this is what they want to know about. I'm going to give this example of we used to work with a group of real estate agents. They initially launched their podcast with it being a sales funnel. They wanted it to be educational for new homeowners. They wanted it to be where homeowners and people who were on the market, first-time home buyers, would be reaching out to them to work with them. Well, here's what they ended up finding out. Those who were actually watching their content, engaging with their content, asking them questions were actually not homeowners at all. They were not home buyers. They were actually other professionals, young professionals in the real estate industry. Now, it is very easy to think, okay, well, this means that your messaging was incorrect. In actuality, no. It means you may need to change who your target audience is. And let me explain what I mean by that. So they went from a space of their primary target audience was new home buyers to it being other real estate professionals, while also keeping home buyers in mind. So other or new real estate professionals do need to know the ins and outs that they need to be mindful of and to learn. It's the same things that new home buyers need to know. Well, in us switching our focus, they still were able to get 60% of business for home ownership from those clients because of the fact that people were able to see their expertise, their knowledge, and find them. But along with that, they were also able to get sponsorship from other real estate companies. So closing attorneys, real estate insurance companies, homeowners inspections, because they were able to see, oh, wait, you have access to real estate agents and new professionals in the industry, and we want to get in front of them. So you see how being able to be flexible and pivot, it can still serve those two elements, but stop being so rigid in who your target audience is. I often find where people are like, these are the people I want to talk to, and then you're ignoring and negating all the other people who may actually be finding your content because you're too stuck on who you wanted it to be. So have some flexibility in the beginning, and it's okay to pivot and shift. I actually believe in having a quarterly process of where every quarter you look at the initiatives and the elements that you've put in place for your podcast, for your brand, and then you shift it based off of what's working, remove some elements, add some other elements. It's not the fun thing to do, but it's the necessary item to ensure your growth. So let's do a quick recap. Item number 1 is making sure you understand who that target audience is first before trying to figure out where they're located. So that's knowing where do they like to do for fun? What do they do in their free time? What are their social economic status, gender, race, all of those things. Once you've determined who your target audience is, then the next step, item number 2, is figuring out who else is in this industry with you. So first it's identifying your audience, but then it's identifying who your lateral as well as vertical are. So who are people who are bigger creators than you, who are creators that are on your same level, and creators that might be below you, meaning they're just kind of starting up, not below you. Let's be clear. And once you've kind of determined who else is in the playing field, you can then start utilizing different tools such as vidIQ, as well as doing your own manual research to look at who's engaging with their content. Chartable even tells you information as to the rankings of other shows. So you can actually utilize the free information out there to see what your verticals are showing and who they're targeting and who they're reaching. So that was item 2. Item number 3 is once you've determined that, it's creating those partnerships. And so now you found out that, okay, my target audience listens to this podcast. I want to either create a partnership with them or I need to go on a podcast tour to be on their show so I can get in front of their audience. And I know some people when I say that are like, oh my God, you're trying to steal their audience. Well, there's no such thing as stealing audience. It's more of a, okay, how do we work together synergetically? And last but definitely not least, it's creating a review process to see is this still your target audience? Are these the people that you want to be reaching? And are the strategies you've placed to reach them working? So identifying how you can pivot and be agile, because once your audience tells you they want more of something, if you don't act quickly on that, it's very easy to lose them. Now, if you're feeling to yourself, Anna, this was a lot of information in the last 15 minutes. I need some support in determining and finding my target audience, who my listener avatar is, where do they spend their time, and really the research and the data around their listen through rate, my competitor analysis. I'm saying a bunch of words at this point. Go ahead and reach out to us here at Adode Media. We support brands of all sizes with everything from podcast production, branding and design, and digital marketing. Our focus is doing the research so that way we have the actionable resources to help you make decisions and grow your brand. So feel free to reach out to us at adodemedia.com. Once again, that's adodemedia.com, and we can't wait to partner with you.